I'm mostly going to be talking about MinimumCD, actually. Who's heard of it? Okay, a few. Okay, so yeah, more on that later. But yeah, the mandatory slide. Oh yeah, here's Erno. Yeah, when he was young and still present. But yes, so me. Oh great. Okay, but I work at Polar Squad. I'm a modern software engineering advisor. Yeah, I got to pick that myself. I'm over 40. I've been programming for over 30 years. I've been doing DevOps stuff for 15 and more years. And I've been professional in the IT in various roles as a developer background for more than 20 years. And I have split my career in several halves. There's been big companies, small companies, 50-50, consultant, internal, 50-50, and then also been working as an internal individual contributor and leading teams. And I'm not the full stack guy. I do found companies, pay the salaries, hire the people, when you run a startup down, you're actually effectively firing everybody. So yes, I've done that. But yes, but I don't do front end. So I do build racks, I do kernel drivers and all that, but no front end, so not full stack. Okay, and then the war story that I'm going to tell you. This is coming from a company called Chatham Inc. So you have an option. It's an anonymous company. Do I tell the name or do you want to hear the story? I hope you want to hear the name so I get to save time. Okay, so they are an established company, 20 plus years in their own industry. So they are obviously doing some things right, which might not be apparent from the following slides. But anyway, they are doing something right. There's an established business. And they are, to keep it very specific, they are a B2B company who are selling their service to B2C companies. They receive data, they aggregate it, and then they send to their customers. The data streams are kind of huge and all that, but practically they are, reading and writing data. And this war story is a work in progress. So I have been working there for a year, and I started with a CI project, which I'm sort of telling about. And then there is a CD project, which is just starting. I think it started like 3 months before it got the official approval to start from the company red tape and so forth. But yes, so the starting point of the journey, pretty much why they called Polar Squad. And they were one of these funny companies that called Polar Squad, like, that's who you call? I don't know why, but yeah. Well, it's practically that we have been going with this current way. The business landscape is changing. For some reason, we have been able to survive with all this, and no more. So, there's a few things that they are working on. So there's my thing. So moving from Gerrit and Jenkins to GitLab in 2025. Also, moving from Java 8 to Java 21 in 2026, because that's what you do. Also moving the platform from Windows to Linux. Going from on-prem virtualization to cloud. on-premise product to a SaaS product for their customers. From installation packages, of course, they have a custom jar format which has some Python and BAT files inside it, BAT files, and from that to containers. Also, some light usage of Docker somewhere and going to full-fledged Kubernetes clusters as well. Then also going from nightly builds to a minimum viable continuous delivery thing, and that's one of my things as well. And then going from artisan architecture to GitOps and Oracle to anything else. I hear it's expensive. I don't know what they complain about. But yes, so yes, no Gen AI mentioned. So, a traditional company. Of course, the AI policy in June is that you cannot pass more than a sentence of company information into an AI model, which makes things very easy and fast and traditional. Also, you mustn't create disruption to the development teams by replacing their version control and build system entirely within 6 months. No disruption. Okay, then starting point. So 160 Gerrit repositories, Jenkins builds that are aggregated in a way that there's a commit build which builds 40 different things, and they are all in a nice queue, and there's about 50 plus modules that are built by the same job, which is doing every time the different thing. Of course. Then there are nightly builds for all the, there's the master, but that's not interesting. There's the release and maintenance branches, which are the interesting thing. Then how a release is made is that there's the about 50 repositories. You take a branch with the same name from everything on the same day, and then you freeze and sort of make the branch good while the master is going further and further away. So 50 repositories branched June last year, and yeah, that's fun. Then, of course, version numbers. Who needs them? So instead of having a version number per package, we have this joined version number for the particular maintenance branch, which is the sort of major minor version .0, but sometimes 1, and then an ID, which is the Jenkins build number. So it means that everything is coupled together into one thing, and that's the nightly build. And whether the nightly build is better than last night's build, yeah, that's the question. And then, of course, there's a build script repository which has the main configuration of Jenkins and all the Groovy scripts that you, of course, want to have for Jenkins, because Groovy is a great language. And that is strictly limited to certain audience only, the team that maintains it. So, for example, the software architects don't have access there, because why should they? Yeah, and then, as said, a 6-month project. There's me. I'm the sort of the technical lead for it. Then there's Joe, who is a dear colleague from Polar Squad, and then there is subcontractor X from company Y, and then there's an internal support promise from Team Z. So that sounds quite nice. Of course, when we start, instead of the 160 repositories, we find 170 more from the get it, which is like, yes, this 6 months timeline is going to hold. No problem. Of course, there was the good news that there was someone in another unit who took like 20 of their own repositories. They are the kind of people who own their own repositories, take good care of them. They had containerized their builds already and were like, yeah, we had a few chats with them, and then they sort of did their own migration. And that's good news. And of course, the Team Z supporting us, they had allocated one person to support us who was very busy maintaining the Jenkins because it wasn't stable. Interestingly. Of course, this subcontractor X from Y was what we had a few meetings with them present, and then it was like, I'm going for vacation. And then he was never online after that. I hope the contract ended because it would be really expensive to have them offline and still pay for it. So it's me and Joe for half a year or so. And of course, the 6-month thing was that there was a really important thing from the project management side was that we make a plan that is exactly 6 months, no matter if it's possible or not. It's important to have a 6 months plan. So about metrics. So what was the starting point? So concurrency rate on the Jenkins was that there were about. The builders were kind of busy and they were doing other things than just like processing commits and so, but about 5 concurrent jobs doing commits in a more than 100 people development thing. Then the build time was 1 hour by average. There was the nightly run that was like 1 hour of building, 1 hour of installing the packages to the test environment, and then database verification for 1 hour. On my laptop, it took 5 minutes to build anything. Not everything, but anything. So any package. So one of those commit verification builds that take an hour on my old clunker, not the best laptop. I got an upgrade later on, but not the best laptop, but it was still like 5 minutes. Of course, the Jenkins thing was that the dependency management was that you pull all the repositories to these sibling directories in your workspace, and then they access each other's files. Because that's what you do when you have them checked out side by side. Yeah, and then there was, so that was the first thing what the Jenkins did. Then it did some stuff for minutes, and then there was this green text, not exactly workspace prepared, but anything like to some that extent that the workspace is now done. Let's sleep for exactly 4 minutes, which is like if the net time for building is about 4 minutes. Then the actual build was still on the Jenkins 5 minutes most of the time, and the net time was 1 hour. So of course, flaky tests. Who would have guessed? Database verification. Yeah, that was a nice thing. Running liquid base change sets, about 4,000 of them. Starting from the version 3, and the product was running at version 18 by then. The support contracts were for 2 years, so 10 years of migrations run every night, every commit. Well, kind of wasteful. And of course, then we can ask, where is the CD? Well, we were quite far from it. course, I'll show this. So, minimum viable CD. So this is an idea we had during the COVID years in DevOps Enterprise Summit, which was arranged at my balcony in the middle of the night. So it was the Las Vegas virtual conference. So I was at the balcony so that my wife could sleep because she was going to work early and I was at the conference. So we did think about why, or there's so many companies claiming that, yeah, we're doing CD, and then whether the D is for delivery or a deployment, well, that they don't know. So we set a sort of minimal practice, like how, when you claim you're saying doing CD, what are the things that you're supposed to be doing? Now we got it to a list. Of course, we got this one guy who knows something about the subject, Dave, to as the first signatory, and then Brian Finster and me, who were running those discussions. But yeah, basically, you start with trunk-based development. If you're not managing a single version, it's kind of hard to do CD. Then you do continuous integration, and then you have, for example, the pipeline deciding the releasability of changes, and its verdict is definitive. So, and here, if you're interested, go check it out, and it is available for anyone to sign if you want to join the, well, it's a nice round number, so don't sign it. So yeah, but anyway, then going back to how that matches, and this is the actually the things that which CD practices could I actually buy doing the builds for these teams without interrupting the work. Which ones I could actually affect directly by making guardrails so that the only passable accepted practice is the one that's the CD. So pipeline is the only way to deploy. Easy to do. Artifactory is not a mandatory part of CD, and it's an awfully glorified web server which has awful documentation. So I'm glad that it's not a mandatory part. But anyway, that's one way, that if the builder, the runner, is the only one who has access to push to Artifactory, then pipeline is the only way to deploy, unless you do things which are not going for Artifactory. But the package signing sort of gets that dealt with. So yeah, that's easy peasy. Of course, continuous integration, not there yet. Yeah, and then having the pipeline verdict definitive. So practically the other thing is that, yeah, the pipeline, when it runs a smoke test or something like that, it gives a definitive answer that yeah, this is deployable. This is through all the mandatory tests. Of course, the verdict might be based on more things. There needs to be tests and all that. And yeah, artifacts meeting the definition of deployable. Well, that's the harder bit, because we haven't had that discussion yet. What's the definition of deployable? So that requires more than just automation. Yeah, immutable artifacts. Really easy to do. We compile things once, they get a version number, and they go to Artifactory if they are good enough to go to Artifactory, if they pass the tests. And when you want another build, it gets a new version number, and yeah, that's easily preventable. Then there's hard things like stopping the line when the pipeline is red. That depends on the human nature a bit, and I think here here the problem is really that since the GitLab usage has been like a couple of months, it's not something that the people in the teams might actually have a look at. So in some repository that got some dependency upgrade made by Renovate, they might not even see that it's red. So that's the main problem really. It's not that it's easier to care deeply when you know that something happens. Production like test environments, yeah, that's the testing. Rolling back on demand, yeah, that's a hard one. But yeah, I guess the sort of containerization, for example, might help with that immensely. Then some things we managed to do with CD. So the work is integrating to trunk at minimum daily. I think this is the same issue as the previous one. So somebody might not see that there's a merge request, especially in the less active repositories where somebody or maybe there's a dependency upgrade that has been blocked. So yeah, that requires a bit of time. Then work has automated testing before merging to trunk. Yes, that's a mandatory thing which we do. And work is tested with other work automatically on merge. Yes, there's after the merge there is another test set run. And again, all feature work stops when the main build is red. No. And new work does not break delivered work. And this goes more into the testing practices. So some things by simply like choosing the right tools can be made the only acceptable way. And then the third thing, trunk-based development. This is pretty easy, and this is where actually this is a good part of a team who's been working with Gerrit. Because with Gerrit you don't push to the master branch directly, you push to a code review, and then it's up to the code review whether that commit to the branch really ever existed. So and also there were some practices that made like not everybody was able to make branches in Gerrit, which is kind of an interesting practice. But anyway, that's something that protected the teams from having like extensively running feature branches and all that. So I guess there's a good side to Gerrit. And then yeah, all changes integrate to trunk. Yeah, that's the one thing where we have that, and then everything comes from trunk and goes back there. So this is easily done. Of course, here's one caveat. While I do like trunk-based development a lot, there's this one thing. I did mention the Java 8 to Java 21 migration. So suddenly that's a really, really good reason to have a branch. Because you need to update the JVM in the target environment. So it's kind of mandatory to sort of, you can't really mix and match those. So that means that these guys are running two branches and it's totally fine. It's the maintenance work that is still bound by contracts, and then there's the mainline work. Then, on the subject of AI, because of course we need to mention AI, and this was what saved us. So, half a year project, 330 repositories. Kind of hard. So, the first thing was, which I noticed, was that how do I free my hands from doing all sorts of silly things? Well, there was the sort of management and the project manager wanting the 6-month plan and so forth. So that's an easy thing to do. So how do I vibe code something that deals with reporting? So while I do my work, some status gets automatically updated without me ever touching Azure DevOps, which is the kind of DevOps I hate. And then also doing aggressive standardization. So in the beginning there was a single job building things in 50 different ways. No, there's going to be a couple of ways to build. Something is built with Ant. Then there's the Ant variant of the build. Then there's a Gradle variant, and then there's a Maven variant. And if it's C++ or Visual Studio, sorry, we're not supporting it. And then another thing of the approach was that I've been creating a lot of tools. CLIs and stuff like that, which is still somewhat conventional automation. They are pretty easy to create. You can one-off something that's almost correct, something that for 300 repositories it solves a certain kind of Windows character encoding or line ending problem for 50 repositories. That's nice. And then I can make another version which fixes it for 50 others and breaks the previous ones. And that way, there were a lot of these things that there's some thing that needs to happen in all the repositories. So let's make a script instead of like prompting the way and repeating the things. And this was a nice thing because I went over my cursor quota for 1 month in a year, and all the other time I was just like, apparently quite conscious about my tokens, which is something that apparently everyone is now interested in, but I've been for a year.
How much was it? How much dollar US cent a month?
Less than 100 a month. Significantly less, many months. And then one thing which helps me process this multitude of things, I created a big classifier thing as the first step. Practically, I went. And this was because of the AI policy. I'm not supposed to put the sentence of company data into an AI engine. So make me a generic Gerrit inventory script that goes through a generic repository list of a generic Gerrit and pulls all the repositories as clones. Classifies them using there's a GitHub tool that states that how many lines of code in which language there are. When has this been last edited? How many yearly commits? How many committers? Is there any documentation in the repository? Sadly not. And all sorts of things. And turning these into arbitrary tags. So that first we started with Joe when he was still on the project. There would be the thing that I start with the first step of the process, which is I compile it on my machine, and once I'm done, I push that to GitLab, and I tag that particular repository in our big JSON file that it has compiled. And there was a CLI tool that Joe used, which listed that give me all repositories that have the compiled flag but don't yet have the CI flag. And that's actually a perfect way to work with an AI agent as well. So beginning state from this list, move them to this list. So compile locally. This is the sort of what we did hundreds of times. Compile locally. This was like one way that get rid of all the dependencies that were built on Jenkins. So run it in isolation. So we have practically a whole code tree with very few exceptions that were never built on Jenkins. It's just like the whole tree of dependencies we built from scratch, so that we can reproduce it at will, and we do daily. Create a CI job on GitLab, then publish that to Artifactory, and then the Jenkins nightly job, which is a big thing that builds everything every night. We made a little switch there. Like if Artifactory provides this package with above this version number, skip the build. Take it from Artifactory. And then we have this transparent mechanism where it's to this date, there are a few tests that start with the oblivious state that on the K drive, the legendary K drive, there is a delivery folder with this version number. And this is where the tests pull in the packages that are installed in the system. So we just reproduce that, but some of the packages originate from GitLab. So that way we weren't really like focusing on any of that stuff. And finally, the most important part, which was really we should not disrupt the work of the developers. So the tombstone commit, when in their Gerrit repository, there's like all the files are vanishing. There's an AND file that does the sort of, it gives a pass and prints that your princess is in another castle, and nothing else in the repository. That was the time like, what did you do? But that was very interesting because when there was of course these tombstone commits needed to be approved by somebody, and they had to go through a test automation, of course. And the test, since there was this nice sibling directory build thing, so it might be that if I've tombstoned one repository, there's some other repository in the same build job that goes haywire, so I can't merge this thing that does nothing. So a few times this happened that like in the 3-hour window when I get this thing fixed and there's someone to approve my commit, there would be someone pushing something in between, and and then you have these weird commits that are not in GitLab. They are in Gerrit, but nobody's using Gerrit. So making these nice signposts that don't work here is really useful. Okay, and then maybe I'll show. This is the made safe version of the reporting thing. The project is not called Skiggebe. It's not. The first thing, this is actually the classification. It still has some of the stuff in it. So there's these tags. There's web service descriptions. There's it's been through smoke tests. There's external renovate, and so forth. So these are the arbitrary tags. They originated initially from the scan I did over all of Gerrit. Really helpful to sort of see at how many ant-based repositories we have to deal with, how many Gradle-based things, and so forth. Then there's of course these nice incantations. So if I want to clone this repository, I just click to copy and I could go here. Of course, I made a CLI that when I say that what's the next repository that doesn't compile on my machine, it gives me a name for it, and then I put a flag there like pull it, and then it pulls it and also copies it over from Gerrit to GitLab and so forth. And the nice part is that I haven't really looked at the code of this. This was by the request of a developer. I made dark mode. It was 2 prompts. And then, as I said, the project needed to get some status. So pie charts, of course pie charts. And there were these kind of things. And this migrated twice. Yeah, this was, of course, because why not migrate hundreds of repositories once when you can do it twice? So this was actually that I first migrated the then master copy, which was the Java 8 version, and of course then we did the same for the Java 21 feature branch, which they don't use a lot, but for some things they do. So I had to do it again with the Java 21 tooling. Then there's the sort of, but this was actually something where I got rid of the managers already asking. And the one part about this is that, as you can see, it's from my home directory. So this is what I call a single file app. So this is Tailwind, some React, pushed into one file, because of course I had the problem that you usually do, that if you want to host a static website in a company, no you don't. So for 3 months, this was the reporting where I had a timestamped copy of this, which I sent to the whoever was asking, until I got GitLab pages to host this for me. And it's still running. And this has been expanding. So then there was the, at some point, the final mile of the project where the sort of, is this migrated or not, ceased to be an interesting thing. Then we added some arbitrary tags and started like looking at, okay, these are the steps that need to be done and followed up. And then there's some verbal reports of like a weekly digest of the thing. And of course, there's also, of course, the documentation is highly classified, and I didn't include it in the demo. But yeah, there's a markdown renderer. So instead of me trying to find my way into the Confluence hierarchy where I don't have read or write access to many places, I'll just publish them on here, and there's the documentation of like all of the things that you need to do in the migration are here. And then there would be reports, which are not here, but this is one of the things where also, like I said, I made a lot of tools. There was one thing which was a recent thing, like a month ago, called GitLab Badger. Digging holes through GitLab, doing mass operations for 100 repositories at a time, sort of for example, there is and this is what we've been doing a lot, CI components on GitLab. Sort of like, I guess, GitHub Actions, but reusable things. But okay, how do we deploy the first version? Because Renovate is, of course, maintaining all the internal dependencies, but how do we make sure that all the build files have the mandatory security scanning? Well, we make a badger that reads all the GitLab CI files and injects those dependencies in there. And then it does all sorts of things like, okay, let's read through that there's a regex that enforces semantic versioning or conventional commit messages on reports. Let's make sure that it's monitored, that it stays there for the day. So then, of course, there's all of these nice tools. They need logos, of course, because that's like just for 2 pieces of rainforest I get this nice picture. Yeah, I hope it was built with nuclear energy, which is green. And yeah, so renovate dependency queue. So there's all sorts of repositories, and this is one of the things. Yeah, but people might not be paying attention to the obscure repository where nobody's working week to week, so they are sort of in maintenance mode. But yeah, there's the queue status. So, of course, not the actual repository names here either. But this is something that runs nightly and gets reported in here. Then there would be a merge queue. So how many open merge requests? How long are the laggards open? How many are actually approved by something and still not merged? And build statuses. And then there's, of course, it's all reporting doesn't have to be negative. So there's the top merge request creators by group and all sorts of things like that. And yeah, and then, for example, the nightly metrics that, okay, which repositories don't have the mandatory CI components and scans and all that, which are at breach of policy right now. And of course, the nicest thing, which was that we needed a keyword, because of course it's a nice policy to have approvals for merge requests. But when they have internal dependencies where your colleague was just committed something and now that dependency needs to be updated as a dependency of something else, who wants to do that manually? So then there's a little bot that approves that if it comes from Renovate, give it an auto thumbs up, so that it gets accepted. But then when there's the Sunday night fun, where you're the only one working and the production environment is burning, and then having the approval is a damn good idea, right? But of course, you need a password to get to the sort of post review thing. And of course, what password could it be? Well, yeah, okay, you type the capital letters swordfish : I'm really in trouble, it's Sunday and the production is burning, and then that gets logged, it gets sent to the after processing log where somebody approves it after the fact. And that's one of the things that we're monitoring. So yeah, that was quite some time. Maybe as closing words, what's next? So I think that due to these little vibe coding tools and using finally getting the permission to use Gen AI extensively and make all sorts of hacks where I'm not typing as much as I would need to process hundreds of repositories, we couldn't have done it without it. It was a 6-month project, delivered in 10, so that's kind of a success. Only 66% late. And now we're continuing with the CD. So there's testing that needs to be looked at. What is a smoke test? What does need to happen before that? What happens after? And then finally there's some decisions that, hey, maybe we need some AI tools for everybody. And of course, one of the things with MinimumCD is that there's agentic continuous delivery. So practically the same approach that works with junior developers who don't know their tools works as nicely with agents. So all the same kind of process that you have a pipeline that instead of making software that's audited, you rather make a pipeline that will pass all audits. So that makes it impossible for your abominations through burning of wild forests would actually break things. So that's the good resource that you can use. And there's a lot of text, and I guess AI has been assisting in this. So, thank you.